Obviously the situation seems extremely complicated. I was lured to 30 East College Street, admittedly, deliberately kept on site. I was given instructions to distract me, keep me busy. Obviously, I saw Aaron Hopkins pull up. I, tried to approach and was showing my phone saying, explain what was going on with that. And she obviously just didn't even look at me and, did that college scene. So, and especially with the use of the word soy boy, with, clear other things that point to, right-wing based ideology. Obviously, fascism and extreme right-wing beliefs when it comes to race, sexual orientation, and a strict, interpretation and, unwavering black and white view of social norms, can become problematic, especially in times of, social turmoil and division in our country. And I understand that, while we see a lot of rhetoric and we see sporadic acts of violence from right-wing groups that tend to target more marginalized, oppressed, and minority groups, we have not seen, a mass homicide as we've seen that was more organized and, structurally legislated, as was in the Third Reich and Nazi Germany and some of the areas they controlled during the duration of the Second World War. So what I'm about to discuss did not happen. It's merely a hypothetical, based on the type of ideology I've experienced and the type of situations that have been manufactured that have worsened the situation. Obviously, to have a concentration type camp on American soil would be one of the worst nightmares we could have as a country that tries to have thorough justice and, for the most part, an impartial justice system that likes to hear all people and not just execute people because they have a different, orientation than people who see them as purely vile, oftentimes justified through religious text and, brought down and taught, indoctrinated family values. So, without further ado, I'm just going to talk about a hypothetical in which there is a mass murder, camp run by Gavin Sims and, his father, maybe staffed by some of those people who are patrolling outside my house and at 2114 Jefferson Street in Duluth. So, here we go. At about 6:30 in the morning, the town of Rogers, Minnesota awoke to the sound of small arms fire in sporadic waves. Little did they know that this was about to spark a lot more, one of the first and only battles on American soil since the Civil War. The National Guard awaits in the heavily wooded forest around the concentration camp that Gavin Sims and his father have constructed. They call it the Stairway to Heaven. However, the National Guard and the FBI agents who have been investigating and planning a raid to liberate this camp, they've come to term it and code word it as Rauschwitz, R for Rogers. And obviously, they're awaiting orders from the governor as well as some national security folks in Virginia and Washington in order for a go on the raid. They obviously are starting to hear the sporadic gunfire in the camp, and their worst fears are later realized that Sims and his father had ordered some men to stay behind for the mere and sole purpose of executing the prisoners inside the camp, so they could not, air quotes, get back into society and do the vile things, just like they possibly equated LGBT to incest and pedophilia in that tweet. So we're obviously looking at that, and they're awaiting orders, and they're hearing that, and obviously it sends butterflies up their stomach. And they finally get the okay to go, but what had happened is Gavin and his dad had given 6 or 7 men and Gavin to stay behind and work on executing the prisoners. Obviously they have around 50 men And obviously Dennis is going to lead the remaining 43 to try to fight the oncoming, raid, which is comprised of state troopers in, body armor and tactical gear, National Guard, and the FBI. And they're obviously going to try to fight them off, try to take out as many as they can, because they see it as the federal government's overreach, almost like what we saw at Waco, Texas. And so there's obviously a heavy battle, small arms fire, all of that, and it takes them a while. It takes out, a total of 17 of the coalition, and obviously they have to piece their way and wipe out the right-wing, militants who are running this camp. They finally get to the gates, and they realize that their worst fears have been realized. They've taken out the prisoners and the remaining, 7, and obviously Sims is in hiding, but the remaining 7 are the ones fighting. They obviously take them out in a matter of a couple minutes, and they find that Sims had taken his own life with his Bible, hugging his Bible. And the dangers of fascism cannot be understated. And I was clearly lured to 30 East College Street. And there's a lot of unusual circumstances here. Why did this happen?